recently, when Brian White and I were in the green room just moments ago, he mentioned, and I agreed, that technology is a real problem for people as good looking as we are. How did you say it exactly? Oh, you just changed to the green room. Look at that.
Well, yeah, I'm back in the green room. The way I said it was it's nice that Zoom applies a little bit of filter to smooth it out, because with HD such as it is, sometimes you can see all the way inside our pores. And even for people as beautiful as us, that's not always helpful.
I know, and I think it distracts from the message, don't you?
It distracts from the message when you get too pretty. People just and that's a real concern of mine in everyday life. I was at the store. The lady behind me said, "Would you grab me the little divider?" And I said, "Married. I'm married."
Oh,
So
yeah, I know.
I'm flattered.
Yes, I
But
know this. I'm sure this happens to you almost daily.
if I'm capable of a misunderstanding that significant, it definitely will.
So, so you have been taking your personality everywhere, Vancouver and Detroit and all kinds of places where people like to visit. And you promised me that you, now that you're back from Detroit, that you would have breaking news. So we're going to break this in breaking news into two pieces. First, we're going to start with the auto show. And then for people who want to check it out tomorrow, we'll do the battery show. I didn't even know there was a battery show.
Most people didn't. It's not so much a public event as a business to business kind of event, but it is huge.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to be very interested in that. Somebody said many years ago, and I can't find the quote. I've looked everywhere, that he who comes up with the best battery is going to be the richest man on the planet. And I mean, this was a quote from 25 years ago or something. I cannot find it, but it seems prescient.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. So we'll start with the Detroit Auto Show. What is the big news? So Tesla was there, sort of. There was an announcement that they would be there, and then I assume they got a call from Tesla Legal or Tesla PR, which I'm here to tell you does exist. But much like investor relations, you and I will never get a call back saying, look, we're not going to be there. So to save face, the Detroit Auto Show, I went up to they had a little riding track for people who've never been in a Tesla. And I went up and asked them, are you a Tesla employee? Guy's like, no, I'm a Detroit Auto Show employee. I go, where'd you get the cars? We bought them. These cars are 3 days old.
Oh, gee.
So I assume they just bought 3 cars, and then a week later we'll sell them with 500 miles on the odometer at a very small loss. So great. So that's a little bit of, I guess, news. I did mention that on X last week, but that's not as important. The bigger news to me was GM, the leaders, the Mary Ledbetter of automotive in the EV space. They've got a new Acadia coming out. The GM, the Chrysler, whatever, the GM Acadia. It's going to be great, and it's going to be soon, and it's going to be game changing. So they gave their presentation, and nobody really cared. It was a big deal on stage, and then everybody runs up with their cameras and does their thing. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to talk to their marketing people. So I asked them, can I talk to someone? They said, yeah, we're real slam right now. Come back. So I went back at 4:00. And now, mind you, it runs until 7, and I was there on press day. And at 4:00, I was informed that the entire marketing team took a late lunch and is not coming back. And this is on press day. This is how serious GM is about talking to the media about their product that's definitely real and good. Now, I didn't tell them who I was. I didn't tell them I'm my Tesla weekend. They just know I have a press badge, and I am press, and I'm here to talk about their EVs. They even said, what do you want to ask? I said, basically, I want a recap of the presentation, except on my channel. And they said, oh, that does sound good, but I mean, there's nobody here. I can talk to you about existing gasoline cars, but that's the only thing I'm authorized to talk about. So they scrambled a bit. They got an email address, said, send an email to this person, and they'll never heard back. Never heard back, never will, because this is not a serious endeavor. So that's part one of
What
the,
is
the
the
GM.
what is the Acadia? Just for fun, just for giggles?
Um, like a blazer size thing. It looks like a short hearse. It looks like a hearse for people who are under 5'7".
I see.
So it's beautiful. You would love it.
I see.
Yeah. Oh, real eye catching. So not done with the GM story.
Okay.
We decided let's go over and do some test rides in the GM offerings. Let's check out the Hummer and the Cadillac Lyric. So the Hummer was a big dumb beast. You know what it looks like on the outside. On the inside, it looks exactly like you'd expect, like a Chevy Tahoe, like a nice Chevy Tahoe. It's all leather and knobs and a center console in the front, large enough to probably do a 500-piece jigsaw puzzle, which is, they should put that in their marketing. I'd have suggested it, but they didn't have an opportunity to chat with me. So on that one, it's an 8,800-pound car, which means there are bridges in some counties that you can't drive over. Right? You know, those old bridges were like, look, this is an old bridge.
Yes.
You're going to make the kids get out before you go across. They'll meet you on the other side. Or you can just splash down in the river. It'll be fun.
There you go.
So it looks nice. The guy does all the knobs and things. And this indoor track, bear in mind, you are on polished concrete because it is a convention floor. It is, think the floor of Costco. Yes. It's that kind of polished concrete. And we're on big, dumb, floppy, knobby tires. So you're not going to get a true launch. They have a little 0 to 60 stretch because it's all EVs and you got to have that.
Nice.
And all the cars are using the same track. So it does a 0 to 60 and then a slalom on the way back and then drops you off. So on the 0 to 60, he's like, you ready? And he hit it. And we were actually impressed. With those big dumb tires, with that polished floor, it still had a whole lot of get up and go for a 9,000-pound car.
Yes.
It got a little squirrely at the beginning, but he didn't let off the pedal and it corrected. Mm-hmm. And we were both pleasantly surprised by the GM experience in that Hummer. And then we get to the Cadillac Lyric, which doesn't look like a Cadillac. Barely looks like a car, at least from the back. It's very unusual in its egg-shaped bottom. And you hop in and it feels old. I don't know who their demographic is. Maybe it's traditional buyers, a polite way to call people old. But it felt very old-fashioned inside. And he says, yeah, we've got the 300 horsepower option and the 500 horsepower option. And I'm thinking 300 and 500, what year is it? 500 would have been great 20 years ago. The Viper had 500 horsepower 20 years ago. Fine. Great. You know what? Let's do it. So he lines up and he's like, oh, I'm excited. Are you guys ready? We're ready. And I kept my head off the headrest so I'd get the full whiplash experience. And I recorded it. I haven't cut this one yet, but it's going to be fun. My head did not touch the headrest. And in the video, I look kind of like this. And the driver knows he's driving a dog because he stays hard on it until late enough that it's very uncomfortable. And then he slows down. And then in the slalom, the tires are just screaming because, tight parking garages, but the other cars weren't squealing like this. So my buddy and I are just looking at each other going, what in the hell is this? We got out, we talked about it. We're like, this is breathtakingly disappointing. If you've never been in an EV, if this is your first EV experience, I think you'll be impressed. But if it's your second EV experience, regardless of the first, even if it was the Bolt, I think you'll say $108,000 is kind of steep for this thing. So the question I always ask when you've got your new model is, who is this for?
Right, sure.
So in the case of the Hummer EV, let me ask you, Randy, who is it for?
This is what I think Farley at Ford has been talking about. This is for people who live in the west side of Los Angeles and who are looking for something that they can drive around in and catch a lot of attention. I think it was never, even in its gas iteration, I don't think it was intended as a truck.
Right. It's not a real off-road vehicle. It's much too heavy for that. You're not going to get far from the road with a range that short, especially if you're going to be doing a high drain application like bouldering. It's it's it. I struggle to understand who it's for. Your motorheads aren't going to like it because it's electric,
Right.
and your eco-conscious people aren't going to like it because it's 9,000 pounds. So what you're looking for is very rich, very specific attention seekers. And I think what you're going to see is in some quarters, sales as low as 2. Oh, wait, that was Q4, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was Q4's
Yes,
Hummer deliveries. So that's not good. But then on the Cadillac Lyriq, the question remains, and make no mistake, this is not the Cadillac Celestiq, which is not out yet. That's the 300,000 plus one.
Yeah.
The one that is going to be manufactured not on a line, but in their design studio.
Wow.
So that's ridiculous. That's just. Did you make your nation's war flag white on purpose? So don't march under that banner. so they, but the question is, who is this car for? Who is this car for?
Sorry.
the white battle flag. Come on, here we go.
It took me a second,
An all white battle flag. So they, so when you're looking at the Lyriq, who is it for?
Right.
It's not for anyone who's ever owned an electric car. They would find this grossly disappointing for the price. It's more than it costs more than a Plaid.
Yeah.
And well, Brian, you just don't like anything that isn't a Tesla. No, I rode in the Aria a year ago, and I said, for the price, this is good. And you've heard me say nice things about other electric cars, lots of them, almost all of them. But the Lyriq, who is it for? I guess it's for a rich traditionalist who also likes EVs.
And always buys Cadillac. Has always bought Cadillac.
Are there still brand loyalists among Cadillac owners? I don't know. Their deliveries are so low to begin with. Yeah. It feels like this was done on purpose so they can say they're doing something without actually doing it. And at 108,000, they're probably revenue positive on a per unit basis. Can't guarantee it because the volume is so low. Right. Certainly doesn't cover the R&D, but the R&D carries forward into other models. So I just don't know who this is for or why. So that was the biggest takeaway from the auto show.
Wow.
Now, if you have any questions before I move on to the smaller topics behind it,
I think you covered it.
So I did. I will.
Terrible interviewer today.
No, it's just that I'm still so fired up from the trip. The trip was amazing. I love getting on the road, and I think it shows.
Yes.
So the other things at the show, Ford and Jeep were still there with their gas vehicles. They were doing the big hill climbs. Those are very impressive. Those are eye-catching. Those are great things to have at a show. Jeep had their hybrids so that they wouldn't, cloud the air too much. Ford had their gas Broncos, but you couldn't smell fumes inside, which was great. It's a little surprising considering the kind of work they were doing with their impressive hill climbs.
Yeah.
But the show for the test rides, all the cars were electric, and I'd say half of the vehicles overall were electric. In terms of what was on display, it was still mostly gas cars. I'd say half gas cars, 35% plug-in hybrids, and the last 15 to 20% electric. The shift is coming, but very, very slowly, at least in Detroit, because, it's the Motor City, and it's not the electric Motor City. They should work on that. Maybe they should rebrand. Now, there were some.
They should have been calling it the Engine City all this time so that the Motor City could be.
Should have had a V8. But what I was really doing there was capturing moments from all of the small things. There was a company there that has a novel design system for carbon fiber chassis, and I was able to interview them. That's going to be coming up soon, and it was very insightful in terms of, I asked him directly, can Aptera get to scale with carbon fiber? Could the Tesla Compact be cost effectively and time effectively built with an all carbon fiber chassis? And the answer may surprise you, but it was
He
yes.
said,
In both
he
cases,
said,
it was yes.
he said yes. It
He
doesn't
said yes.
surprise me that he would say yes.
Right. Never ask a barber if you need a haircut.
That's right.
um, at the auto show, they all, of course, had two flying cars.
Oh,
One, because it's you got to have the flash. The one of them was basically a quadcopter. It's like, well, that plane has wheels,
yeah.
and it will also never reach production because if anything goes wrong on any one of the motors or the gimbals for the motors or the battery, you're toast. You're gonna come plummeting down like a rock.
Wow.
And the other one was the other one was car shaped, but it was just an absolute mock-up. It was a quadcopter with a grate over the top that had been carved into the shape of a car, and the cockpit with these beautiful big black painted windows. And I mean painted because it was just a fiberglass shell, made to look like a cockpit, and the fans looked like box fans. It was very pretty and very eye-catching, but that thing will never carry a human. I don't even know. I don't think you've got enough fan blade displacement to actually get the job done.
So interesting. Those are the ones that we're showing, but I've been watching this category for years and years, and I do know that there's a couple of, at least one and maybe two now, that are FAA cleared, that they say they can build for 250, 300,000 retail, that I keep expecting to see them any moment, and yet I don't.
It's because they're not, when you put too many different functions into one product, it becomes good at none of them.
Yes.
Why don't you build a car that's also a boat, that's also a plane and a tunneling device? Right? It's too many things. That's too many things. So the Detroit Auto Show apparently is in decline. Apparently 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was a real spectacle, and now it feels like a vestigial conference. So
trade shows in general are declining unless you need to touch and feel something, because you can do the trade show online so much easier and faster. The bicycle show, there used to be 3 of them in the United States. One of them was the 8th largest show in Vegas. And now that show is barely a show anymore, and the other 2 are completely gone. So trade shows have become kind of passe in general, unfortunately, for those of us who have made so much money at them over the years.
Well, I will push back and say trade shows are only booming if your industry is in its infancy. And I will tell you more about that tomorrow, because the battery show was amazing. It was so big and so good.
Well, what a tremendous way to segue into, anything about tomorrow's show is good news. I did want to reach over really quickly, because I do need to at least, was there any of these at the show? That's all I'm going to say. Everybody already knows what it is. They can find the information below. We will see all of you lovely people tomorrow to talk about the battery show. I can't wait.
I should mention, Randy, that this is a one-way broadcast system. I can't see the audience. Do you know that?
Oh yeah, I forgot. I know I can't. I just thought maybe you could. That's unclear.
That would be very uncomfortable, I think.
An audience is not bad.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, listen. Thank you, Brian. And to
pleasure as always.
To all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.